CD, you have found yourself in a pretty interesting position as of late as new interim EVP.
That's correct.
What exactly does that mean, and how much pull do you have around here these days?
Honestly, I think it means that I take a better beating than Tony Khan. Honestly, that really is the long and short of it. Well, yeah, he came back from a neck injury pretty quick, but I think all it means is that when decisions need to be made, and Tony doesn't want to go out and possibly risk being attacked by other EVPs, it's time for CD to take a role. So here I am.
You're good for it.
Christopher Daniels has said and done it all in his career as a professional wrestler. But right now he finds himself in a pretty interesting position, caught in some peculiar crosshairs. So I figured what better time to talk with CD. I'm here with the beloved, respected, the king of the indies, fallen angel, head of talent relations, Christopher Daniels.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great.
Thanks for having me today.
Thanks for coming on. I almost just said thanks for having me. Wow, off to a good start.
Yeah, right?
Listen, before these cameras started rolling, I just did like a quick little look at Wikipedia again one more time.
Okay.
You got married and started wrestling all in the same year, is that right?
I was married probably 2 months after my first match.
Wow.
Yeah.
And still married.
Still married.
Still
Yesterday was my 31st anniversary.
Hell
wedding.
yes.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
How do you keep the marriage alive, the dream alive, the romance alive?
Honestly, she has been a better spouse to me than I ever was to her, so I credit her 100%. Well, I mean, I've done my best. Like, I've been traveling up and down the road, falling down for a living, but she's been the glue that holds the family together and keeps us all straight. So, I mean, yeah, she's done more for me than I could ever do for her. So, I mean, honestly, that's really why.
There's got to be like a little magic, some kind of like token of information that we get that you are still in professional wrestling, still married. I mean, that says a lot about you and your tenacity as a human being.
Well, I mean, I was told early on, like, wrestling wasn't good for relationships. And
heard that one.
Yeah.
Here we are.
But like, you know, obviously, like every marriage, we've had our ups and downs, but she's been so supportive of my entire career.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I've been fortunate to have the partner that I have, and Lisa's been, like I said, the best spouse anyone could ask for.
Lisa, we dedicate
Lisa,
this
thank
episode to you, baby.
Yeah, I love you.
Okay, so going back to 1993, you start professional wrestling. Here we are now in 2024. You're the head of talent relations for AEW, of course, with your on-screen presence, which we will get into. Can you believe the span that you've been able to cover in your wrestling career?
Yeah, I've been, all I can say is that I've been super fortunate. I've avoided most injury, most cataclysmic injury. Yeah, the ability to keep working over 31 years and keep a job and keep working. I've just been very lucky to work with the right people, to facilitate the right relationships, and sort of keep my name somewhat relevant in a world where people are always asking, what have you done lately? So,
you've held over 20 different championships throughout your career. Which run to you is the one that really stands out that you hold near and dear?
I have to say, probably the first X Division title I held in TNA, only because I was surrounded with such a murderer's row of talent. Like, talking about guys like AJ Styles and Samoa Joe and Frankie Kazarian and Chris Sabin, Sanjay Dutt, Low Key. Like, that whole crew, that really was one of the main reasons why TNA was as popular as it was in that era, and really where more people know me than anything. That particular time frame in professional wrestling, everybody sort of looks back fondly at the X Division and the guys involved, and I was just very happy to be part of that crew, and just to be able to play in those waters, to swim in those waters with all those guys. It was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that talent pool, and it really was the like who's who to really lay that land down 100%.
Yeah, and so many of those guys still wrestling today, still making news as professional wrestlers. I mean, it's pretty cool.
Okay, so when you get the heads up, like, hey, you've got a match tonight, like this day and age, it could happen really at any time.
Yeah.
What does that preparation look like for you?
It's somewhat last minute for me. I mean, there's so much other stuff that I'm doing that doesn't have anything to do with wrestling
you're wearing
anymore.
a lot of hats.
Yeah, you know, a lot of times it's sort of last minute, but at this point in my career, I feel like my main job is to just try and find something new and something fresh in whatever match I can have, just to. I don't want to go into the ring and like just phone it in. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I feel like I still want to go out there and perform at the best of my ability. So I don't do it as often. Like last year was a much busier year for me at this point in the year.
Yeah, you were booked and busy.
I was bumping and feeding for everybody. But it's just part of the game. You know, every day I show up here, I recognize that in addition to all the stuff that I'm doing behind the scenes, I could be asked to wrestle. And so it's the same preparation: get up, work out, get ready, get tanned, get shaved, all that. The technical stuff we got to do to get camera ready for professional wrestling.
Yeah.
I have to do that every Wednesday. So.
Do you have your boots on you today?
I have my boots. I always bring my gear with me.
Always
Bring my
brings his gear.
Don't check your gear, kids.
Always gotta be ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot to have to pivot between all the different roles that you have to go, hey.
Yeah, but I think one of the things that I've been sort of good at is compartmentalizing that part of it. Like I recognize the things I have to do and I try to get as much of it done early on in the day as I can. And, you know, once I recognize, oh, you're wrestling tonight, that switch sort of turns in my head and I says, okay, go get ready, go get loose, go and warm up and do whatever you got to do and get the wrestler's brain working again.
Right, right. Okay, so with your position as head of talent relations, your 30-plus career in professional wrestling, what is your nugget of advice to the new crop of guys and girls coming in nowadays? Are you seeing people making any kind of common mistakes that you feel like need to be corrected?
I don't know. I feel like I sort of understand that if Christopher Daniels was just breaking into professional wrestling today, I don't know if I'd have the same success as I have now.
Okay, how come?
So, well, I just feel like it's a little bit of a different game. And sometimes I think to myself that maybe wrestling has changed not so enough where I don't think it'd be the same journey for me. A lot of the stuff that I would tell younger guys probably might be outdated.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it might not
it's
apply anymore.
But also too, like I recognize the things that always worked in professional wrestling. I try to pass those things on, especially doing the stuff that I do behind the scenes, working with specific talents as far as like coaching, producing, trying to help their matches and trying to get the best performance from them. That sort of stuff I feel is timeless. Like the stuff that worked 30 years ago, the stuff that I sort of learned, I still feel like that has merit today, and that's the sort of stuff that I try to pass on to the younger guys, you know, just sort of recognize the camera, recognize where you're playing to. Like in my head, I came from a theater background, so I'm always looking at the ring as a stage, and I look at the hard camera as the audience. So I'm always, in my head, I'm always playing the ring like everything's toward the hard cam.
Yeah.
And I don't, the guys that are like, oh, well, I'm going back this way. And it's like, well, yeah, now your back's to the camera. Now your back is to your audience, that sort of thing. So I'm always sort of cognizant of trying to tell wrestlers that sort of stuff. Like, remember, play to your biggest audience, and the biggest audience is behind the camera lens.
Did you know when you were going to get this theater degree that professional wrestling was maybe a thing that you were going to do?
How
did that happen?
I told my wife that my degree from Methodist College in Fayetteville, North Carolina,
shout out,
Bachelor of Science in Theater.
What?
Because
how does that work?
Because a Bachelor of Arts, you needed to do 2 years of language, and I was not. I was bad at all foreign language. So that prepared me for one of two things: video store ownership or professional wrestling. And Blockbuster's closed, so here we are.
Yeah, here we are.
Yeah.
Well, it applies. I mean, it's cool to be able to. You can really use a lot of stuff that you use from theater in what we do here.
100%.
Like you said, like the ring, the spacing, the audience, all that.
And I think having that background when I first got into professional wrestling helped me get comfortable in sort of breaking down any preconceived notions of myself.
Sure.
Like I recognized that you have to go out there and sort of show ass every once in a while.
Sure.
And don't be afraid to be the butt of the joke. And I mean, I feel like that was one of the things that I was best at in my career, was going out there and being the person that you could either laugh at or boo or, if I could be the antagonist, I wanted everybody to sort of feel a certain way about myself. And that was sort of, I felt like my best work was when I could get people to be like, oh, ooh, that guy, or oh, that guy's a jackass.
Know the role.
Yeah.
Know the role and play it well. Who made you want to be an actor?
I don't think it was an actor specifically. I think it was because I sort of like the attention. And so in my head, I was like, oh, I like to make people laugh and I like attention.
Right.
So it was really like, oh, let's go into a life where people are paying attention to you and performing and acting. So.
Now let's talk about your performances at WaterWorld.
Okay.
What happened there? What was this?
Okay, so when I first moved to California, one of the first jobs my wife had was she was
she an actor too?
Yes, she was an actress. That's how we got together.
Okay.
So we moved to California to pursue her career because I started wrestling in Chicago.
Okay.
So we were there for 3 years when we decided to move to California. And one of the first jobs she got was a costumed performer at Universal Studios. There was, do you remember the Rugrats cartoon?
Yeah.
So they had a stage show with the Rugrats characters, and they were like puffy costumes. It wasn't like her as her.
Yeah.
She was in one of these big, huge heads.
Yeah.
And so at the time, they were doing maybe a Raiders of the Lost Ark stunt show or some sort of stunt show. And then later, not soon after that, they started a WaterWorld show. And she was like, oh, you'd be great to do WaterWorld stunt show. And we thought about that for years and years.
Yeah.
And then in 2016, I thought, well, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
And auditioned and got it and did it for 5 years. So, yeah.
Pretty impressive.
It was fun. It was fun. And at the time, it sort of was scratching my performance itch just because I was doing Ring of Honor. And Ring of Honor wasn't really a place where you cut a lot of promos. Like Ring of Honor at that point was really just wrestling. And every once in a while you might cut an interview or something like that. Those shows, the WaterWorld shows, were really just an opportunity. Even though it was the same show 5 times a day, however many days a week I would work. It was interacting with an audience a little bit and just trying to get a reaction out of fans that were, there to have a good time.
I love
scratched
that.
the itch. It scratched the itch. It was fun.
I love it. That's great. Okay, so the job of talent relations is probably a pretty thankless job. How did that even happen?
Well, when the company was first discussed, before it became a reality, myself, Frank Kazarian, Scorpio Sky, we were friends with Matt and Nick Jackson. And when we talked about this company becoming a thing, Matt and Nick, they sort of looked at me as an elder statesman, I guess.
Sure.
I mean, they looked at me as someone like who'd been around and someone they could talk to and someone they could trust. And they felt like the head of talent relations needed to be somebody that had the respect of everybody in the locker room. And that was sort of how they looked at me. And so I was very fortunate that they felt that way. And it was a short discussion with them and Kenny and Cody and Tony, and the job became reality to me.
Yeah.
And here I am.
Here we are.
Yeah, still doing it.
Head of TR.
Yeah.
1993, major debut. Here you are, just kicking ass, taking names, and got your boots ready to go.
Ready to go.
Got
my stuff.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your service, Christopher Daniels.
Thank you so much. All right.
Okay, so you have been in this industry for 30 plus years.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the thing about it that you love the most to keep you here for this long?
Oh man, I honestly, it was the only thing I was really good at. Honestly, I fell in love with it as a kid, and then when I got into it as a professional wrestler, I found success super quickly, and I was just fortunate to sort of keep that success rolling the entire time until it was too late to do anything else. At a certain point, at a certain point, there was no other avenues. It was straight. It was like going down a hill, slalom skiing. You stop doing side to side after a while and just start plummeting towards the bottom. So I think that's sort of where I'm at now.
I feel like, to me, there feels like there's such a magic about professional wrestling to me that I love. What is the magic to you?
The two things in my life that I don't remember a time that it wasn't there was comic books and professional wrestling. And to me, I've always said that professional wrestling is the closest thing you're gonna get to real life superheroes and supervillains.
Yep.
Every week we tell this story of good versus evil, and I think it's living the possibility of being a real life superhero or sometimes being a real life supervillain. That's what appealed to me as a kid and still appeals to me to this day. Just trying to go out there and get a reaction from people by being the good guy or being the bad guy, whichever one I happen to be that day.
We're just out here trying to keep the magic alive.
Exactly.